So in this episode, we're going to talk about unanswered questions from the CMMC-AB Town Hall. I'm joined by Ty Wittenberg of Rain Associates.
Morning, Todd. How are you?
Very good. So I am the Regional Sales Manager at Etactics. We're a software development company, and basically we just want to make it easier to implement CMMC, so we developed the better GRC. Ty, do you want to introduce yourself and Rain Associates?
Ty Wittenberg, as you have heard from Todd and me once again, with Rain Associates. Rain Associates is a top 100 CPA and business consulting firm located here in Ohio, but doing business with clients all across the country and providing cyber security services along with registered provider organization in the CMMC space.
And thank you for joining us. So we've been participating in these town halls for the past year, and there's a lot of questions that get asked in these events that the accreditation board either doesn't have the time to answer, or maybe the answer is just lengthier than a short response in a chat box. So I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to leverage the experience of somebody like Ty, take some of these questions from the dialogue box and talk about them. So moving on, let's talk about MSPs, right? So has there been any clarity as to whether an IT service provider, an MSP, would need to get certified at or above the same level that their client will need to be certified at? So how would you go about answering that question?
That's a great question. Here is my opinion, that if you are providing those services, you need to be able, and you have access to those systems to support them. Yes, you become in scope for that particular piece, and you need to be able to demonstrate either through an ISO 27001 and a CMMC maturity that you are taking the appropriate steps to be able to have access to support that particular system. So it hasn't been clearly defined, but I would challenge anybody that's in the MSP space, and I've done some interviews as well too for a thing that we do here at Ray called Cyber Chats, where we have an MSP friend and partner that is going through the process as well too to become certified as a MSP, has done a lot of good steps on his end already to be able to demonstrate those behaviors, especially around cybersecurity, around cybersecurity insurance, due diligence, multi-factor authentication, all those other things. But if I make any type of, future statement, I would think that you're going to see on the horizon that it's going to be expectation that you become in scope as an MSP if you're touching those systems, and they're going to expect you to be able to demonstrate the maturity.
So as a follow-up to that, do you think that a lot of the MSPs will decide to make the investment like the company that you're familiar with did to become certified to keep those clients? Or do you think this is going to cause maybe some consolidation, at least in terms of the defense industrial base space when it comes to MSPs, with providers kind of bowing out and saying, it's not worth the investment for me to become certified, just to support these small number of contractors that have this requirement?
I can't speak to how people are going to make business decisions, Todd. But as you know, Etactics has made an investment to be in this space. Ray and Associates has made it a business investment to be in this space. And the reality is we made the investment because our mission is really to ensure that these businesses in the defense industrial base or those outside of it that are doing business and have to utilize technology and have data that needs to be protected, that they're in business not only tomorrow, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. So depending on your business model, as an MSP, and depending on how many clients you have in that space, you're going to have to make a determination if it makes sense. I would say personally, I did a conversation for a ISSA summit that I believe the CMMC maturity model is really a good model for any business around safeguarding their information systems. And almost any organization, whether you're in the DoD, Defense Industrial Base or not, should be looking at that model and implementing it. So, once again, it's a business decision, and you're going to have to take a look at it from your top line revenue and the number of clients. Yeah, so that's a tough one for me to answer for you, but I think I would just say organizations like yours, organizations like mine, realize the importance of what the defense industrial base means, not only to the revenue infrastructure of the United States, but also to the safeguarding of our nation. And
let me ask you this though, thinking outside the box, if I'm an MSP working with a government contractor, might one of the ways that I can keep myself outside the scope, might it be I could point the OSC to use a cloud service to store, that sensitive information so that I have access to their systems, but I don't have access to the CUI or the FCI. Might that be an avenue that an MSP could, evaluate as to limiting the scope so that they're not included in it if they used a CSP?
So the challenge there is your MSP is providing remote management services, patch management, which touches on storage systems and stuff like that. If they're being a cloud administrator for them, yes, they could potentially minimize their scope. But if they are helping with availability and integrity of operating systems, my opinion is they are in scope.
Right, because they're they have control of the security around the systems that actually house that content, that sensitive information. So that would make them within the scope.
Correct. They have privileged access to manage those endpoints, and in having that privileged access management, it exposes them to, especially if they're using some sort of remote management tool. It exposes them to being compliant. Here's where it may not, and create exposure for them. If you've seen recently, Microsoft 365 is rolling out their virtual desktop environment, right? So if they were made a user in that virtual desktop environment, their entirety of systems wouldn't be in scope. They would be like a virtualized IT administrator or virtualized chief information officer, director, or however you want to look at it within the organization. And then that can potentially minimize the scope.
Well, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity for MSPs when it comes to CMMC. I like your suggestion that, going through that certification process themselves is almost like a badge to display to even organizations outside of the defense industrial base to say, I've got the highest level certification. When it comes to cybersecurity, we've gone through CMMC ourselves. And I think that would only help, bolster their case that they really do a good job when it comes to implementing these types of standards and compliance cybersecurity efforts.